It didn't come with a warning. You woke up expecting another ordinary morning. Coffee brewing, kids arguing over breakfast, the hum of traffic outside. Then, without drama, everything stopped. First, the lights flickered. Then, darkness. Your phone lost signal moments later. You shrugged it off. Just another outage, right? But then you noticed your neighbor outside, staring down the street, confusion on his face. No power, no water, no calls going through. Your gut tightened. This wasn't normal. At the store, shelves emptied fast, quiet panic setting in as people rushed through the aisles. Cash registers stopped working. Credit cards were useless. The clerk shook her head, fear behind her eyes. On your way home, the roads were clogged. Traffic lights blank, drivers shouting, tempers rising. A distant siren, then silence. By evening, you saw strangers on your street, backpacks and wary glances, moving with purpose. You locked your doors, checked your pantry, counted your supplies. Your heart raced as reality sunk in. The systems you relied on, food, water, safety, communication, were shutting down. Help wasn't coming. Not tonight. Maybe not tomorrow either. In that moment, it became crystal clear. You either prepared for this, or you didn't. And now, your choices were limited. This wasn't a drill or a bad dream. It was society grinding to a halt, and you had no more time to lose. What happens next depends entirely on what you know and what you do. Where you live, a city high-rise, a suburban neighborhood, or a rural farmhouse profoundly influences your survival strategy. Urban and rural environments present opposite challenges in a collapse, and you must adapt your plan to your setting. Let's begin with the unique dynamics of urban survival. Cities offer abundant resources, stores, hospitals, dense social networks in normal times. But these conveniences quickly turn into vulnerabilities in a crisis. Urban areas have high population density, congestion, and a heavy reliance on complex supply chains. In a collapse, your first major threat is resource competition. With millions of people and limited resources, food and water vanish within days. We've all seen how panic buying empties shelves within hours. If trucking halts, urban grocery stores face severe shortages in about 3 days. Water system failures hit apartment dwellers especially hard. Few urban residents have private wells or large storage tanks. That means in a city, prepping at least a couple of weeks' worth of supplies is critical. You can't rely on scavenging when millions of others are doing exactly the same thing. Next comes security and civil unrest. Cities see more looting and disorder during breakdowns simply due to population density. Some percentage will inevitably take advantage of the chaos. High-density housing becomes especially difficult to defend. You might share walls with neighbors who didn't prepare, and now they're desperate. Plan carefully how to secure your apartment or home. Consider building entry points, shared stairwalls, and weak points. Decide whether you could effectively team up with neighbors for mutual security, or if isolation is safer. If evacuation becomes necessary, say due to a fire or escalating violence, cities turn quickly into gridlock nightmares. Imagine everyone trying to flee at once, roads jammed, gas stations empty. Urban preppers need fast evacuation routes and multiple backup plans. Keep paper maps handy, know multiple exits out of the city. And sometimes, sheltering in place is safer if roads are chaotic. It's a tough call that depends entirely on the specific scenario. Cities also carry infrastructure hazards. Industrial sites, chemical plants, and hazardous materials can become secondary dangers. Fires spread quickly when fire departments are overwhelmed. Toxic spills become deadly without immediate cleanup. If you live near such hazards, have a special plan. If you're downwind of a chemical corridor, a gas mask or an N95 mask stash could save your life. Consider bugging out early if a chemical threat emerges. And yet, urban areas also offer unique survival opportunities. Cities initially have larger hospitals, more pharmacies, and potential scavenging locations. You might find refuge in numbers, a community shelter, or neighbors banding together. Urban survivors can also repurpose building materials from abandoned structures for firewood, barricades, or shelter reinforcement. Knowledge of your city's layout, alleys, subway tunnels, hidden paths give you an edge to move around unseen. In short, urban survival is all about overcoming congestion and resource bottlenecks. Plan for scarcity, unrest, and be ready either to firmly dig in or get out fast, depending entirely on what's safest at the moment. Rural areas present the opposite problem. Plenty of space and resources like wood or game, but with the added detriment of isolation and lack of immediate help. If you live in the countryside or a small town, self-reliance becomes your greatest strength. In rural life, you often have to solve problems yourself. In a collapse scenario, help, whether police, medical, or utility repair, may be hours or days away, if it ever arrives at all. Your preparation must focus heavily on self-sufficient systems. Many rural preppers invest in off-grid capabilities, wells with hand or solar pumps, generators, solar panels with battery banks, septic systems, and food production. A key takeaway for rural residents is building maximum self-sufficiency. If you heat your home with wood you cut yourself, draw water from your own well, and have a garden and livestock, you can withstand society collapse almost indefinitely. Geographic isolation has advantages and disadvantages. Being far from dense populations reduces your likelihood of encountering hostile people. Looters from a city rarely trek 50 miles into the countryside unless truly desperate, and even then, they can approach unnoticed in large groups. However, isolation means that if you have an emergency, injury, illness, or home invasion, you can't expect rapid backup. In collapse conditions, even calling 911 might yield no response. Thus, rural preppers must have robust first aid and trauma care skills. Coordinate with neighbors for security. Set up a rudimentary network, perhaps using radios or agreed distress signals. Rural areas have fewer targets, but also fewer supply points. There are simply fewer stores, pharmacies, and resources available if you run out. If the one general store in town is empty, there's nowhere else to go. Therefore, deep stockpiles are critical. Fuel can become a critical limiting factor. Many rural preppers store extra gasoline or diesel with stabilizers. If supply lines break, remote gas stations will be the last to get refueled. And without fuel, generators and vehicles quickly become useless hunks of metal. Don't overlook your rural community. Rural areas often have a tradition of neighbors helping neighbors. In a crisis, a tight-knit community can share skills and labor. One family might have a working well, another has heavy equipment, and one is good at hunting, and another at medicine. Bartering goods and services can flourish. But rural communities are often spread out, so establish your connections now. Periodic check-ins via ham radio or community bulletin boards can keep everyone informed and safer. Also remain aware of regional hazards, wildfires, wild animals, extreme weather. Each requires specialized preparations. Have defensible spaces around homes, manage your exposure to weather threats, and know how to respond to animal dangers. Security remains important. While rural homes might feel safer from crowds, they still can become targets if outsiders think you have valuable resources, fuel tanks, livestock, or crops. Basic security measures, sturdy doors, dogs, firearms if you're comfortable, remain vital. The difference is that you likely won't face large mobs, but possibly small bands of thieves. You usually have the advantage of seeing them coming, long driveways or clear lines of sight, and intruders can't blend into crowds. Use this advantage. Early warning systems like driveway alarms or noisemakers can alert you to early intruders. At night, rural darkness is total. Consider nighttime lighting or night vision equipment if possible. In short, rural survival is about being self-sustaining and coping with isolation. If prepared correctly, rural living offers potentially indefinite sustainability. Some preppers design their homesteads to be completely off-grid. If unprepared, rural isolation quickly becomes a double-edged sword, leaving you stranded far from any help. How many Americans live somewhere in between? Not downtown, but not farmland either. Suburbs actually combine challenges, dependence on city infrastructure like water and power, yet without the city's density of resources. In a collapse scenario, suburbia might devolve into many small tribal neighborhoods. The good news is most suburban homes have moderate space for gardens, rainwater collection, and less immediate crowding. The bad news is they typically depend on nearby urban centers for supplies, utilities, and jobs. If you're suburban, prepare for the possibility of needing to assist or even merge with neighbors more, since individual homes might not be fully self-sufficient. Shared tools and skills can make a suburban block resilient, but this only works if you coordinate in advance. Suburban folks face a difficult decision early on, whether to fortify their home or evacuate. Evacuation might mean joining family in rural areas or safer locations, depending on the scenario. The key is flexibility. Be ready to pivot between staying put or leaving quickly as circumstances dictate. Remember, suburban homes often rely heavily on municipal water, power, and regular supply deliveries. If those stop, your household could face shortages within days, similar to urban areas. Consider setting up rainwater catchment systems and storing ample water. Establish food reserves to bridge weeks or months of disruptions. Security in suburban neighborhoods can be tricky. Neighbors you once trusted could quickly turn desperate without adequate supplies. Conversely, a well-prepared neighborhood can band together for mutual defense and support. Forming alliances in advance and setting clear boundaries can mitigate chaos. Suburbia often provides more time and space than dense city apartments to prepare for gardens, food storage, and alternative power setups, but less self-reliance than rural living, which can create vulnerabilities. Take advantage of your moderate space to increase your independence as much as possible. Develop contingency plans to cope with prolonged loss of utilities and supplies. Clearly define under what conditions you would evacuate or reinforce your home for long-term survival. Ultimately, suburbia is neither fully urban nor fully rural. It's a hybrid zone. This means your survival approach must be flexible and adaptive. Don't treat suburbia as a neutral zone. Instead, prepare early, build quietly, and remain alert to subtle shifts within your community. With careful planning, you might turn your suburban street into something much stronger and safer than anyone anticipated. Survival isn't just a physical challenge, it's also a mental one. In a sudden collapse, panic and paralysis can become just as deadly as running out of water. To maximize your chances, you need psychological resilience, the ability to stay calm, think clearly, and make smart decisions under extreme stress. Let's explore how disasters affect your mind and how you can train now for high-pressure situations. When chaos erupts, even normally rational people can behave surprisingly. Research shows that people experiencing disasters often go through a three-stage reaction: denial, deliberation, and a decisive moment. First, many go into denial. They refuse to accept something terrible is happening or hope it's a false alarm. Think about office workers on 9/11 who paused to shut down computers or call relatives instead of evacuating immediately. Denial is the normalcy bias we discussed earlier, your mind convincing you this isn't really happening. Next comes deliberation. You recognize the threat. You might feel overwhelmed figuring out what to do. This is when people freeze or hesitate, sometimes making simple mistakes under stress. Finally, the decisive moment arrives when the survivor snaps into action, hopefully taking the right steps. Understanding this pattern can help you overcome it. Expect your first instinct to underestimate the danger. Override that by recalling your training and plan. We said that if X happens, we grab the kids and we head to Y. If you feel panic or confusion coming on, use simple decision-making tools. Breathe deeply, prioritize your tasks, life threats first, then act decisively. Training and drills build your confidence. Just as school fire drills help children not panic when alarms ring, you should conduct family drills for your emergency plans. Practice rapid nighttime evacuation. Can everyone find flashlights, grab go bags, and reach the car in 5 minutes? Test it now to see what snags you hit. Maybe the dog panics or a child hides. It's far better to discover these issues today. Practice shelter-in-place scenarios too. Simulate power being out for a day, no electronics, and perhaps even turning off lights at the breaker. This teaches you how everyone copes and reveals any gaps in your readiness. Do you have a manual can opener? Does everyone know how to safely use your propane stove? These rehearsals iron out logistical issues, but also condition your mind. Familiarity breeds calm. Military and first responders drill extensively, so under pressure, they can act on training, even when their conscious minds race. You don't need boot camp, but you do need to mentally walk through various scenarios. Visualize. If there's an earthquake tonight, I'll do A, B, and then C. Mental rehearsal significantly improves real-world performance. Managing fear and panic is crucial. In a collapse, fear is inevitable, a healthy response to danger. Your goal isn't eliminating fear, but controlling it so it doesn't control you. Panic is the real enemy, causing rash decisions or freezing you entirely. Combat panic by focusing on immediate tasks. Don't get lost in big-picture doom scenarios. Instead, ask yourself, what must I do in the next 5 minutes? Break the situation into smaller problems tackled individually. Account for family, check supplies, secure doors. Taking even small actions replaces helplessness with purpose. Remember to breathe and speak clearly. Under stress, people often hold their breath or hyperventilate, worsening anxiety. Deliberate deep breaths lower your heart rate. If you're with others, give calm instructions. Hearing your confident voice reinforces composure. If someone else panics, calmly say, "Hey, look at me. We've got this. We'll do this together." This breaks their spiral, making everyone safer. Avoid decision fatigue by relying on pre-made plans and simple rules. A written emergency plan helps. In high-pressure moments, follow your checklist instead of figuring everything out from scratch. Decide beforehand under which conditions you evacuate versus stay. If your predetermined trigger happens, say a wildfire within 5 miles, you act immediately, rather than hesitating as flames approach. Information is a double-edged sword in a crisis. Good info, like emergency broadcasts, help you make the right call. But rumors and misinformation spread quickly, causing mental havoc. Stick to reliable sources, know a radio, official emergency channels, and be wary of hearsay. In true collapse, official word might vanish. Then, you rely on your eyes, ears, and community intelligence. Communicate with neighbors or use radio network to piece together a clearer picture. Being in the dark, figuratively and literally, is terrifying. Any confirmed info, even bad news, is better than uncertainty because you can act on it. Surviving a prolonged collapse is as much mental endurance as it is physical. Prepare yourself emotionally for stress, monotony, and fear. Everyone in your group will experience emotional highs and lows, and that's normal. Build psychological resilience by fostering hope and purpose. Don't forget to remind each other what you're fighting for, to keep family safe, to rebuild. Celebrate the small wins. We fixed the generator, or 3 days down, we're okay. If someone struggles with anxiety or despair, give them a clear job to do. Contributing makes people feel more in control. Maintaining routines or normalcy helps as well. Even in chaos, observe mealtimes together, say a prayer, or maintain basic hygiene. These small rituals ground you psychologically. Finally, decisiveness can be life-saving, but it should be informed decisiveness. Train yourself to quickly assess situations, scan for threats, check people, and identify options. Then, commit to a course of action. Indecision traps you. In a fast-moving wildfire, those evacuating early avoid traffic jams, while those who hesitate face jammed roads or encroaching fire. If you've planned and prepared, trust your gut when it's time to move. It's better to sometimes be wrong, maybe evacuate unnecessarily, than it is to hesitate until choices vanish. In short, cultivate a survivor's mindset, alert, adaptable, proactive. Disasters will jangle your nerves. Acknowledge fear, but channel it into focused action. Your brain is your most powerful survival tool. Train it now, and it will take care of you when the world around you falls apart. If you're still watching, it means you're one of the few who gets it. You understand that the world can change overnight. That being prepared isn't paranoia, it's responsibility. My mission is simple: to help as many people as possible wake up and gear up. If you believe in that too, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that this message matters. Oh, and subscribe. It helps spread the mindset that one day could save a life. Alright, let's get back to the video. In a collapse scenario, medical emergencies quickly become do-it-yourself situations. Hospitals might be overrun, inaccessible, or non-functional. Calling 911 might bring no response. This means you need to become your own first responder. Medical self-reliance involves two critical things: having the right supplies and having the knowledge to use them. Here's how you can prepare for everything from minor cuts to life-threatening injuries when you're essentially on your own. Start by building a comprehensive medical kit and knowing exactly what's in it. A standard first aid kit, bandages, antiseptic, gauze, tweezers, and pain medications is a baseline. But in a serious collapse, upgrade to trauma kit level. Experts recommend trauma-specific supplies addressing major injuries, those that can kill in minutes if untreated. At minimum, add these life-saving items. A proper tourniquet to stop severe bleeding from limbs, which can be fatal under 5 minutes. Choose reputable brands like soft or cat tourniquets and practice applying them properly beforehand. Pressure bandages, such as Israeli bandages or Ole's modular bandages. These combine dressings with built-in wraps and sometimes a pressure bar, perfect for serious wounds. Hemostatic agents and wound-packing gauze like Quick Clot Combat Gauze. These are infused with agents helping blood clot faster. Pack these into deep wounds like gunshot injuries to control internal bleeding. If unavailable, plain gauze can still help in wound packing. Chest seals for penetrating chest wounds caused by bullets, stabbing, or debris. Seal these holes immediately to prevent collapsed lungs. Commercial ventilated chest seals like Halo or Hyphen save lives and are easy to apply. Splinting materials for broken bones and sprains. A moldable SAM splint or knowing how to improvise splints with sticks and cloth is essential. Burn care essentials, including burn gel packets, sterile burn dressings, or aloe vera. This is especially important if you're cooking extensively with fire or facing wildfire risks. Medication stockpiles are crucial. Over-the-counter medications, pain relievers, antidiarrheals, antihistamines, these should be abundant. More critically, anyone needing prescription medication, blood pressure, diabetes treatments should have an extra 30-day emergency supply. Discuss this with your doctor now. Most will accommodate emergency preparation needs. Rotate these meds regularly to keep them within expiration dates. Remember, clean water is critical for medical use. Cleaning wounds, irrigating eyes, and mixing oral rehydration solutions require water. Plan extra water specifically for first aid. Sterile saline is ideal, but boiled and cooled water works as well. Miscellaneous but important. Nitrile gloves to protect yourself and keep wounds clean. Trauma shears to quickly cut away clothing from injuries, and a thermometer. Advanced items like a blood pressure cuff or a stethoscope are helpful if you have training for diagnosing conditions. Organize your gear clearly. In an emergency, fumbling through a messy box wastes precious time. Separate trauma items, regular first aid supplies, and medications into clearly labeled pouches. Learning how to use all your supplies is as important as having them. Take basic first aid and CPR classes. The Red Cross routinely offers these. Better still, take a Stop the Bleed course. This short training program specifically teaches controlling severe bleeding with tourniquets and wound packing. Skills proven to save lives on battlefields and highways. Community Emergency Response Team, CERT training, if available, teaches disaster medical care and is invaluable in a crisis. Long-term, preventative health strategies become critical. Emphasize sanitation, purifying water through cooking to avoid illness, and proper waste management. Moderate activities to avoid injury. Resist unnecessary risks like chopping wood or climbing on roofs alone. An accident with no hospital open can quickly become devastating. Despite your best efforts, injuries and illnesses may still occur. Here's how you handle common serious medical problems without an ambulance. Severe bleeding from a limb requires a tourniquet. For junctional wounds in groins or shoulders, pack tightly with gauze, using hemostatic gauze if possible, and apply firm pressure. Once bleeding is controlled, keep the patient warm and hydrated. Always treat for shock. Broken bones must be immobilized immediately. Use a splint and wrap firmly without cutting off circulation. Open fractures with bone protruding requires careful bleeding control around the wound. Do not push the bone back in. Pain management is crucial. Administer analgesics if available. Remember, in collapse scenarios, healing bones might take over 6 weeks. Major burns require immediate cooling with clean water, but avoid ice or prolonged cooling for large burns to prevent hypothermia. Cover burns loosely with sterile dressings. Do not pop blisters or apply grease. Pain control and hydration remain essential. Serious burns pose infection and fluid loss risks. Keep clean and apply honey or aloe vera if available. Penetrating chest wounds need immediate sealing with chest seals. If unavailable, use plastic taped on 3 sides to create an improvised seal, leaving one side open to let air out. Monitor breathing closely. If breathing becomes labored, lift a corner of the seal to release trapped air. Infections pose significant risks. A simple cut can turn septic without thorough cleaning. Irrigate wounds carefully with the cleanest water available, and keep wounds covered with daily dressing changes. Watch for spreading redness, swelling, or fever. These signal serious infections. In societal collapse, antibiotics become critical commodities. If you have access to antibiotics, human or fish antibiotics, they can save lives. Reserve antibiotics for serious infections, ensuring you use the correct type for the infection. Without medications, natural antibacterials like raw honey can help prevent local infections. For internal infections without antibiotics, hydration and immune response are your only options. Manage chronic conditions carefully. For asthma, have extra inhalers ready. Diabetics dependent on insulin face significant challenges. Stockpile as much insulin as possible, keeping it cool. Small solar fridges or insulated caches buried underground prolong insulin's lifespan. Learn non-medical strategies, low-carb diets for diabetes, reduce salt and stress for hypertension to manage chronic conditions. Cross-train your family in first aid skills. Children can call for help or bring supplies, and in a collapse, calling for help might mean alerting neighbors via radio. Leverage community medical knowledge if available. Neighbors who are nurses, EMTs, or medics could be invaluable allies. Having medical knowledge also combats fear. Instead of feeling helpless during an injury, you enter treatment mode. Training builds confidence, enabling crisis response with purposeful action instead of panic. Studies of disasters like 9/11 confirm those who thought about escape routes or had a role, like fire wardens, acted faster, saving lives. In medical emergencies, if you've mentally rehearsed scenarios, if someone has a severe injury, I'll do X, Y, and Z. You're primed to act decisively when it matters. Medical self-reliance might feel intimidating, but approach it step by step. Acquire and stockpile critical medical supplies now, especially items for immediate life-threatening injuries. Learn basic first aid and trauma care. This preparation pays dividends even outside collapse scenarios, car accidents, storms, or everyday emergencies. In societal collapse, injury and illness become widespread. With preparation, you can prevent many deaths. Your ability to manage wounds, treat illness, and maintain health significantly boost your survival chances and those of your entire group. You don't need a medical degree, just preparation, level-headedness, and readiness to respond. When there's no doctor available, you become the doctor. In a collapse scenario, reliable communication quickly becomes a lifeline. Without clear, timely information, you're left guessing, vulnerable, and isolated. Information isn't just power, it's survival. Start by understanding that communication infrastructure can fail rapidly. Cell towers, landlines, internet, these systems are fragile, easily disrupted by disasters or civil unrest. When communication goes down, you must be ready with backups. Radios become essential. A battery-powered NOAA weather radio provides official updates during emergencies. Shortwave radios, or ham radios, can connect you with distant contacts and networks, even globally. Consider getting basic ham radio training and licensing. These skills greatly expand your communication options when regular systems collapse. Keep communication equipment charged and stored securely, shielded from potential threats like an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP. A simple Faraday cage, a metal box or container lined with insulating material, protects radios, chargers, and batteries from EMP events or solar flares. Staying informed in a crisis is essential, but always remain cautious about your sources. Information easily becomes distorted during chaos. Stick to reliable, official channels like NOAA, emergency service broadcasts, or trusted ham radio networks. Beware of rumors. They spread quickly and cause confusion. Use community intelligence if official channels vanish. Neighbors, local radio groups, or direct observation can help build a clearer situational picture. In crisis, staying informed means knowing what's happening immediately around you. Establish routines for regular check-ins like hourly radio broadcasts or daily community meetups. This maintains constant flow of verified information and builds community resilience. Operational security, known as OPSEC, is just as critical as clear communication. OPSEC means keeping your information secure, ensuring only the right people know sensitive details about your preparations and resources. In a collapse, desperation can turn neighbors or even friends into threats. Never broadcast details of your supplies or your precise plans. Even innocent social media posts today can become dangerous later, marking you as a target during a crisis. Practice careful conversation discipline, even within trusted groups. Share only necessary information and only with people who need to know. Maintain clear rules on what's private and what's to be shared externally. Consider carefully who you trust, and always remember that circumstances can change relationships. Visually, practice discretion. Avoid overt signs of wealth or abundance. Don't advertise you have plenty of food, fuel, or medicine. Stay low profile. Simple practices like blackout curtains, discreetly reinforced doors, or hiding supply caches can reduce your visibility. Consider noise discipline too. Sound travels far. Loud generators, barking dogs, or obvious activity draws unwanted attention. Quiet tools, subdued lighting, and mindful activity schedules reduce risk. Train your group on the importance of OPSEC and communication discipline before collapse happens. Clear guidelines prevent misunderstandings or accidental leaks of sensitive information. Establish code words or phrases for specific situations to relay vital information without revealing sensitive details openly. If someone asks uncomfortable questions about your supplies or preparedness, it's a good idea to have pre-planned neutral responses ready. Casual deflection keeps relationships stable without giving away your security details. Balancing information needs with OPSEC is challenging but crucial. Share enough information to coordinate community safety and mutual assistance, but never enough to expose your family or group to danger. Remember, clear communication and OPSEC aren't just about protecting supplies, they protect lives. Your ability to gather reliable information, stay informed, and carefully manage what you reveal directly impacts your survival chances. In the uncertainty of collapse, knowledge is safety, but discretion is security. In prepping, it's tempting to rely heavily on gear and supplies. Quality gear is undeniably valuable, but in a prolonged collapse, your greatest asset isn't your equipment, it's your skills and knowledge. Gear wears out, supplies run dry, but skills remain, no matter how long the crisis lasts. Think about basic survival skills: fire starting, water purification, hunting, gardening, food preservation. These skills outlast physical supplies. Learning them now ensures your long-term survival, regardless of how circumstances change. Practical skills become even more important than stockpiles. Knowing how to grow and harvest food means food security when stores and supply chains vanish. Being able to safely purify water ensures health even when bottled water or filtration supplies run out. Skills in maintenance and repair extend the lifespan of your essential gear and tools. Learn basic plumbing, electrical, mechanical, and carpentry skills. When hardware stores are closed permanently, being able to fix a leaky roof or broken generator can literally save your life. Medical and first aid skills, as discussed earlier, rank at the top of essential knowledge. With medical self-reliance, you're able to handle injuries and illness without hospitals or doctors. Understanding wound care, fracture management, and infection control keeps your group healthy, active, and strong. Communication and navigation skills matter deeply. Being proficient with maps, compasses, and basic land navigation ensures you won't get lost if your GPS fails. Learning how to use and maintain radios ensures continual access to critical information and community networks. Security and defense skills significantly boost your safety. Basic firearm training, situational awareness, and self-defense techniques improve your odds of surviving dangerous encounters. Know your local defense laws and practice responsible use of defensive equipment. Community building and interpersonal skills matter just as much as practical survival techniques. Negotiation, conflict resolution, and clear communication skills help you maintain stable relationships, which is critical in a prolonged collapse. Strong relationships mean mutual support, shared skills, and combined resources, which strengthen everyone's chances of survival. Trade and barter skills become essential as traditional currency loses value. Understanding the value of goods, negotiation tactics, and how to conduct fair trades ensures that you maximize your resources. This skill also builds trust and sustainable relationships within your community. Learning self-reliance skills builds psychological resilience. Confidence in your ability to handle various challenges reduces panic and anxiety when crisis strikes. Mental stability keeps you and your group focused, proactive, and capable during high-stress scenarios. It's wise to practice and reinforce these skills regularly. Start by acquiring new skills gradually. Take a first aid course this month, learn gardening next season, and practice firearm safety regularly. Build a diverse skill set before you truly need it. Gear and supplies are essential short-term survival assets, but never underestimate the power of your skills and knowledge. They represent sustainable survival capabilities, renewable resources, and enduring resilience. In a prolonged crisis, your gear may fail, your supplies may run out, but your knowledge and skills remain reliable and valuable. Ultimately, you become your own greatest asset. Investing time in learning and practicing survival skills now is one of the most important preparations you can make. Preparation doesn't happen overnight. It's a deliberate process divided into clear phases. Approaching prepping strategically in well-defined phases helps you avoid feeling overwhelmed. Each phase sets achievable goals, building systematically toward full readiness. Phase 1 is foundational, basic emergency readiness. Start with 72-hour kits and short-term water storage, enough to handle immediate common emergencies like power outages or storms. Include essential medications, hygiene items, basic first aid, and simple communication gear like radios. During this phase, focus on immediate, realistic threats. Set clear triggers that activate your emergency plans. If power goes out for more than 24 hours or a severe storm warning is issued, you execute your prepared actions immediately. Phase 2 is short-term sustainability, expanding your resources and resilience beyond 3 days. Increase your food, water, and medical supplies to cover at least 2 weeks. Consider home security improvements and establish plans for potential evacuation or shelter-in-place scenarios. In this phase, clear triggers might include sustained power outages exceeding 3 days, interruptions in essential utilities, or local civil unrest. When these triggers occur, activate specific actions like rationing supplies, fortifying your home, or preparing for possible evacuation. Phase 3 involves medium-term resilience, building resources and skills to sustain your household for 1 to 3 months. This includes larger food storage, water purification systems, alternative energy setups, and more comprehensive medical supplies. Invest time in learning essential survival skills, gardening, food preservation, medical care, and security tactics. Clear triggers for Phase 3 might include regional supply chain disruptions lasting several weeks, significant economic instability, or even widespread civil disturbances. At these trigger points, your household implements stricter resource management, activities, communication networks, and possibly relocates to safer or more sustainable locations. Phase 4 is long-term self-sustainability, preparing your family for disruptions lasting beyond 3 months, and potentially indefinitely. This phase emphasizes permanent infrastructure, large-scale gardens, renewable energy systems, wells, and livestock if possible. Develop deeper skill sets, including advanced medical training, extensive food preservation, and advanced communication setups like ham radio networks. Triggers for activating Phase 4 include prolonged systematic collapse scenarios, national-level economic collapses, or severe long-term disruptions to essential services. At this stage, you shift fully to self-sustaining living practices, ration resources stringently, and reinforce community networks and mutual support agreements. Throughout each phase, clearly defined triggers are crucial. Predetermine and document conditions or events that shift you from one phase of readiness to the next. Clear triggers eliminate hesitation and indecision during stressful times. For example, a trigger might be, if grocery store supplies become erratic for more than 2 weeks, we activate Phase 3 measures. Another might be, if we lose communication with emergency services or local authorities for more than 3 days, we shift immediately into Phase 4 preparations. Actions tied to triggers must also be pre-planned. Each trigger should have specific, simple, actionable steps attached. Clearly document these actions to avoid confusion during crises. Include everyone in your household or group in creating and understanding these trigger action plans. Preparation in clearly defined phases with explicit triggers and associated actions keeps your survival planning organized, manageable, and effective. You build a structured, logical framework that ensures decisive, confident responses to evolving threats. With strategic phase-based prepping, clear triggers, and pre-planned actions, you maximize your preparedness, reduce stress, and significantly increase your chances of successful, sustained survival during any collapse scenario. No one can predict exactly when society will face a crisis or collapse. The reality is, you don't control the timing, only your readiness when it happens. Throughout this video, you've seen what collapse means for urban, suburban, and rural settings. You've learned how vital medical skills, clear communication, psychological resilience, and strategic planning are to survival. Preparation isn't driven by fear, it's driven by responsibility. Responsibility for yourself, your family, and your community. Start now. Build your skills. Gather your supplies thoughtfully. Establish clear triggers and actions and commit them to memory. Because when disaster strikes, there will be no second chances. Only what you've done today determines your chances for tomorrow. Don't wait for a crisis to become real before you start taking it seriously. Preparation begins before you need it, not after. The choice is simple. Be proactive now or risk being helpless later. Thanks for watching. Stay aware, stay prepared, and stay safe.